Hi everyone, it's Fred here from Hillians Bricks and welcome to today's video. And in today's video we are going to be looking at some of the best sets to part out from a Bricklink store perspective. So this is based on US data from January 2023. Now this data is available to my Patreon members, and I'm going to be going through two different levels of my Patreon data. So first of all, I'm going to go through the top 5 sets based on just the standard part out value, which is available to my basic Patreon membership, and then I'm going to go through the top 5 expected best sets from an expected ROI perspective, which is available to my premium Patreon members. Now, at the end of the video, I'm also going to be giving you a bit of insight in actually what the number 1 set is for April, which really shows how the data really works from the expected ROI perspective, so the premium data. But let's get started with the top 5 part out value sets for the USA for January 2023. We have a dot set, so it's 41935, lots of dots. This is available for $19.99 in the US, and the part out value was $58.26, which gave it a ratio of 2.91. So the ratio is literally the part out value divided by the RRP pricing. In 4th position, actually before I get on, now this was top 5. When we actually look in the expected ROI data, this set was one of the worst sets in terms of expected ROI, and I'll explain in a minute what the expected ROI is. So I have 212 sets so far analyzed as of January in terms of my premium data, and that kind of takes into consideration the supply and demand. The POV data doesn't take into consideration supply and demand. So if you take in supply and demand, this set is one of the worst performing ones. In 4th place for the part out value data, we have 21334, which was the Jazz Quartet. Retails for $99.99 in the US, and the part out value back in January was $299.32, which gave it a ratio of 2.99. Now, on the expected ROI, this is actually 35th in the list, so again, nowhere near the top. In 3rd position, we've got 41950, which is lots of dot lettering. A set that's also available for $19.99 in the US. Had a part out value of $60.33, which gives it a ratio of 3.02. Now, again, when we compare this to the other data, that was only ranked 192nd, so nowhere near the top. And that suggests that lots of people have been buying this set, part it out, and there's lots of supply in the market, so you might not necessarily sell it. Then we got number 2, we got 10307, so a big set. Yeah, it's the Eiffel Tower, which retails for $629.99 in the US and had a part out value of $1,943.99, which gives it a whopping ratio of 3.09. Now again, when we look at the expected ROI, we put a supply and demand into place, it only came into 54th place. And then the number 1 based on part out value ratio was 40521, which is the mini Disney Haunted Mansion, retails for $39.99. And the part out value was 146.36, giving a ratio of 3.66. But when we mapped the supply and demand on top of that, it only came into 36th place. So this data, the list of all these sets, is available to my basic Patreon members. Most people follow part out value ratios in terms of how they're going to add stuff to your store. But what I found is that, everybody seems to be adding the same stuff. And if you want to actually sell stuff rather than build inventory, you really need to start thinking about including supply and demand. And that's where I started working on some data analysis for my premium members, where I include supply and demand. Now, all the data is available for 5 markets. So we have the USA, which we're covering today. We have Canada, the Europe zone, UK, and also Australia. So now let's actually look into the expected ROI. So again, it also uses the part out value data that we just gone through, but on top of that, it includes the last 6 months sales value and the current supply that's out there in the market for every single part. And based on that, we can give every set an expected ROI, which is basically how much money we can expect to recover after 6 months have passed. So we then compare that to the actual RRP, and then we get a percentage score again. And clearly we want to make back as much money as quickly as possible so we can reinvest things. So it doesn't necessarily take into consideration the best part out value, it just takes into consideration parts that actually sell and that are undersupplied. So shall we get started with the top 5 on this one? Now, in number 5, we've got 31204, which is the Elvis Presley The King art set. Now this is available in the US for $119.99, and the expected ROI back in January was 146.14. Now this gives it a ratio of 121.79%. So after 6 months, you can expect on average to get 121.79% back of the money that you put into the set if you buy it at RRP. Now hopefully you're not buying at RRP, but to give it a same benchmark, we always compare to RRP. Now this set has 38 lots, 2 of which are in high demand. And what do we mean by high demand? It means that the last 6 months sales value is higher than the current supply, so we qualify that as a high demand lot. And this set also has 2 unique parts that are not part of any other set. Number 4, and this one was surprising, it's an Avatar set 75573, which is the Floating Mountains Site 26 in RDA Samsung. That's a mouthful, right? So it's $99.99 in the US, this set, and it's got an expected ROI of 126.88. And actually, because this set has minifigures, we do the split between to see what actually is worth of the parts and the minifigures. So the 126.88 is split into $73.49 on expected parts, and the 53.38 is based on the minifigures. Now again, every month this changes because the supply and demand changes. This gives an overall percentage of 126.89% when we compare it to RRP. It's got 299 lots, 9 of which are high demand lots back in January, 12 unique parts, and 5 unique figures that are not available in the other set. Number 3. This set might be quite popular. It's 10305, which is the Lion Knight's Castle. So in the US, this retails for $399.99, and it's got a part out value, expected ROI value, of $510.92. Now, of this, $367.09 is linked to the actual parts of the set, whereas $143.83 is linked to the minifigures. This gives us a percentage of 127.73%. This set is a big set, comes with 774 lots, 23 of which are high demand lots. It's got 27 unique parts and 21 unique minifigures. Now, one thing before I go into the top 2, these data sets change every month, and we see when people start parting out sets, it does have an impact, and sets move up and down quite a lot down that list. So it really gives you a good gauge of which sets to part out. If you have some sets in your backlog, you might actually over a few months see when is the right time to part it out as well, because you can see sets moving up and down the list because supply and demand is linked to this. So next we go on to number 2, and it's 75342, which is the Republic fighter tank, available for $39.99 in the US. It's got an expected ROI of $51.81. Only $9.25 is linked to the parts, whereas most of it comes from the minifigures, which is $42.56. This gives it a percentage of 129.55, and it's got 107 lots. 7 of these are high demand, 5 unique parts, but 3 unique figures, and it's all about the minifigures in this set that is driving the value. Now, I know a lot of people are buying these sets from an investment perspective, but sometimes you can see that the demand for the parts is there as well, which kind of also supports the case that it might be a good set for investment in the future. And then number 1, this was an interesting one back in January, because now, as I said earlier, these sets move up and down a lot. This set is nowhere near the top 10 currently as of April, but this was number 1 in January, and it's 80110, which is the Lunar New Year display. This retails for $89.99 in the US, and it had an expected ROI of 118.97. Now, what that means is that this set, again, I think at the time had a high part out value ratio, and lots of people parted out, and therefore it dropped quite quickly of the expected ROI as well. At the time, it had 132.2% scoring, got 179 lots, 2 of which are high demand, and 14 unique parts. So yeah, this data I do on a monthly basis for the currencies I mentioned earlier, and I make it available on my Patreon. There's the link in the description of this video to my Patreon. The basic membership is £5, I believe, and the premium one is £35. The premium one is actually capped. We don't want to have too many people access to this data because we realize it is very powerful. And I did mention at the beginning of this video I was going to show an example of the number 1 set for the US, and actually it was for quite a few regions as well, on expected ROI and how I feel that the data really works, and the analysis here And it isn't a retired set, so I'll keep track of the retired sets now as well. Keep on building. We're over 300 sets now in the analysis. But the number one set in April was 75319, which is the Armorer's Mandalorian Forge. Now, lots of people who've been watching The Mandalorian will know why. But back in January, this set was only 12th in my expected ROI list. Now it's moved up to number one. So $29.99 this set was available for in the US. And the expected ROI is $39.76. Now, only $8.50 was because of the parts. But as you will have guessed, the minifigures have been in high demand since the series of The Mandalorian 3 was out. And the set is no longer available. So the demand clearly peaked and the supply is dwindling because this is a retired set, which pushed up the minifigure expected ROI to 31.26, giving it that overall 39.76. So this gave it a percentage of 132.59%. Now this set has 119 lots, 6 are in high demand, and actually when we look back in January, it only had 3 parts in high demand. So I'm pretty sure that it's actually the minifigures that have increased in high demand lots. And it's got 2 unique figures, which is clearly where the demand is coming from. So yeah, I hope this kind of explains and gives you a better understanding on why we think that expected ROI is really the way to go forward. If you're serious about selling on Bricklink, we always felt we want to do something different than what most people are doing. I am not in it just to build inventory. I'm in it to actually generate sales. The UK tier has been sold out for quite a few months now, and people seem to be very happy with the data and haven't left, so I guess that's encouraging. Anyone who wants to comment, feel free to do so. But yeah, if you enjoy this sort of content, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't hesitate to ask any questions on here or preferably on our Discord channel. But yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.